and welcome to season 4 of Woman to Woman. I am your host, Anntricia Bray Smith, your professional mentor and speaker. It is indeed a pleasure to greet you here in season 4 as we are going to do a whole season 4 based on relationships. Yeah, I said it. It is time to really dig in on relationships. We know that relationships are a part of our everyday life. We cannot get through life alone. So therefore, every time we meet somebody, every time we're interacting with somebody, whether it's in person or virtual, we are building and establishing relationships. And so I feel now is the right time to bring it out on the forefront. Let's lay it out on the table and let's talk about it. And let's face it, guys, I am no professional relationship counselor or advisor. However, I have seen how my own personal relationships and my professional relationships have evolved as I evolve. And so that's the basis of where I do my work in the area of relationship. I work with the you in the relationship. And so the reality of it all is your relationships are only going to be as valuable, as confident, as secure, or even as good or successful as you are. I know that you've heard me say it several times, and you also heard it said on other platforms that you are the unique factor in everything that you do. And there is no escaping you. So when I work with people in the areas of relationships, this is what I'm dealing with. This is the information, this is the assessment that I'm taking is about you. What are the components of you? What are the complexities of you? What are you feeling? How can you be better? What are you bringing to the relationship? And when we can dig in and assess ourselves from the inside out, I feel like every relationship that we have thereafter is only going to be a reflection of who we become. So I wanted to just open up season 4, just talking about the realities of relationships. Many of us, when we hear that word relationship, we think about that intimate relationship that we have with a significant other, or those parental relationships that we have with our children, or those superior, inferior relationships that we have on our jobs with our bosses, with our coworkers. But relationships, whether it's spiritual, whether it's physical, whether it's sexual, whatever it is, we're a part of that. And we're only going to be as fulfilled as we feel deep down inside of us. Think about your relationships right now. What are the dynamics of those relationships? I found, thinking back over the years, when my life was chaotic, when I had issues that were unresolved, when the past traumas were making decisions for me, I find that every dynamic of my relationships were impacted as a result of who I was. It wasn't until the past few years when I started doing the inner work and I start getting control of my mind and my thoughts and really digging into what matters to me, that all of my relationships begin to transform into something better, something greater. So I posed a question to you today is how satisfying, how fulfilling are you in your relationships? Now I can answer that because if you feeling insecure within, you can play a role of having it all together for so long before really the dynamics of your relationships begin to fall apart. But if you're really confident within and you did all the work from the inside out, that confidence, that positivity, that sense of power and a sense of value and sense of worth that you feel resonates in every other dynamic of your life, in all of your relationships. Now, that's not to say that we're not going to experience some construction along the way. Because as I sit here today, I can honestly be transparent with you and say that I am more fulfilled in my relationships. However, there are still some things that come at me so hard sometimes that even my relationships, say even with my spouse, with my children, and with the people on my job, with the people in my community, or sometimes even more tested by fire. So yes, I sit here and I smile and I tell you, your relationships are only going to be as good as you are. And on the flip side of that, relationship reality is that the better you become, the more tested in your relationships you're going to find yourself. I wished I could tell you that I felt pretty good most of the time in the relationship with my kids, so to speak. But just as sure as I feel like things are getting off to a good start and we're in a good place, seems like there's a boomerang effect. So what does that say about me? All I can say is I have transitioned in that relationship from being reactive to being more disciplined. That means being conscious of my thoughts, being aware of the words that I speak, and really being certain of when it's time to be that authoritative figure or when it's time to sit back and be supportive and be patient. Did you know that when we're feeling emotional and we're all over the place and maybe we've become angry and maybe we want to have our say, did you know that when we do that, we're not exercising a level of discipline and self-control? Truth be told, when we're emotionally drawn into a relationship and we're being pulled and we're reacting out of our emotions, I find that most of the time that happens because we're trying to control the other party, or we want to control, in a sense, the situation. And that within itself is an issue within. always needing to have that control, always needing to be right, always needing to have the last words. That's some of the most poisonous factors that you can even bring into the relationship. A relationship is not a one-way street. It's not always my way or the highway. A relationship is a give and a take. So I challenge you that if you're feeling some kind of way in your relationship to where you're emotionally charged and you find yourself always reacting and having something to say, I challenge you to think about the environment that you're in when that happens. Are you really exercising a level of respect in that relationship? Are you really exercising self-control and discipline? Are you really considering others in the relationship? Or are you trying to control not only the other parties in the relationship, but the situation as well? One of the things that I'm learning, especially with raising adult children and trying to have some level of respect in that relationship and trying to trust their decisions and trust that they're going to be okay and that I don't have to try to manipulate and control everything when it comes to my adult children. One of the things that I find is that when our relationship is maybe on shaky ground, much of it really at all has nothing to do with me and them trying to find balance. Much of it has to do with my desire to control or to have power over or not really listen. I am the factor in that hinders those relationships. I am the factor in why they won't trust me with, say, some information. Now, how I respond to that or how I react to that or how I feel about that, I am accountable for. I am accountable and responsible for setting the tone in my relationships. Let's say even with my spouse, when the relationship is rocky, when the relationship doesn't feel like a give and take and it feels more like a strain to even say kind words to one another, I evaluate me. I can't go around pointing the finger at my husband. I can't go around complaining about what he does and does not do. I have to look within. That is the reality of my relationships. When I'm unsatisfied on my job, when the job is not giving me what I feel like I need, when I feel unfulfilled, I have to do a self-check. Am I really giving my all? Is my attitude right? Am I going above and beyond to make sure that this relationship continues down the two-way street and that we're giving and taking and we're adding value to one another? Now, I know many of us, we're stuck in relationships that, we don't know how the heck we got in. And even more than that, we don't know how we're getting out of it. I may not have all the answers for you, but one thing that I've done for season 4 is that I've invited some special guests to join me on the platforms. People who specialize in certain areas that I may or may not be able to advise you on, but they specialize in that. And so I want to bring some experts in to really give us some insight on the various dynamics of relationships and what it is that they do or that they offer. And I hope that someone comes here on this woman-to-woman set during season 4 to help you in an area that you may be in need of. Because the reality of it is, just as sure as we need air to breathe, good quality air to breathe, we also need good quality, valuable relationships. I believe that relationships are necessary to help us reach our highest level of success. And the only way that we can be better in our relationships is that we're better and that we get the help and the guidance that we need to help guide us through those challenging times, which we all have. Now, I don't know what kind of situation or challenges that you're up against in your life right now, whether it's an intimate relationship with your spouse or a loved one, or whether it's a relationship with your children, or whether it's your relationship with money, your relationship with your spirituality, or on your job, whatever it is. I want you to know that you're not alone in this season. One thing that many of us can attest to is that over the past year and a half, we have all been tested in this area. We've all had some highs and we've had some lows. But one thing I want to make sure that we can do is be stretched and disciplined and wise enough to stand the test of times so that not only we're better, but our relationships are better for it. So I hope that you're here for the long haul with me as we get ready to dig in to season 4 of Woman to Woman, and we tap into the realities of our relationships, because our relationships aren't just what they are. There's some root causes, but just as there are root causes, there are solutions to everything that we deal with in our relationships. So I'm excited for you that are out here and listening, and you continue to tune in to Woman. I'm excited for you because, like I said, over the past few years, as I looked at how I've evolved and everything around me evolved, not all situations are going to be ideal in our lives, but how we respond and how we're able to grow through those situations helps everything connected to us just be that much better. So buckle up. Let's be ready to do the work. Let's get ready to invest in ourselves so that everything connected to us can win in our relationships. So I'm Anntricia Bray Smith, your host for Woman to Woman. And I hope you're ready for season 4 of Woman to Woman.